What if Anakin Skywalker and the Jedi found out about Darth Sidious being Palpatine during Attack of the Clones? This is one I've wanted to write for a while, and I really do like where it went, so stick around to the end, I hope you enjoy, and yeah, let's get right into it. Anakin Skywalker and Obi-Wan Kenobi followed Count Dooku into the hangar on Geonosis. The two Jedi, Master and Apprentice, were prepared for a lightsaber duel after the fight in the battle setting down below, but Dooku clearly had other thoughts. As Skywalker and Kenobi entered the hangar, Dooku was taking off, and in a split-second moment, Obi-Wan was able to pull a tracking device from his robe. He threw it at the ship, and Anakin used the Force to guide the device in the air, discreetly locking it to the back of Dooku's shuttle, hidden away, as he soared into the stars. And after some time in the hangar, just the two of them, Master Yoda arrived, and soon after him, Padme and clones. Anakin hugged Padme when the Jedi turned away, and apologized for leaving her laying in the sand. Padme forgave him, of course, and when R2-D2 eventually arrived, the little droid said the tracking device actually put Count Dooku on Coruscant. This was shocking to say the least, but a Republic cruiser was soon boarded by Anakin, Obi-Wan, Yoda, Padme, and all the clones needed to man the ship. Obi-Wan remembered what Dooku had recently said, that the Republic was under control of the Sith. Could Dooku be meeting with this Sith, he wondered. Then they took off for Coruscant to find Dooku. Inside the industrial sector on Coruscant, Dooku walked with his master, Darth Sidious, under the name of Chancellor Palpatine. The two would be here hidden away for a long time. They had much to discuss, as the beginning of the war was finally underway. If Sidious truly wanted to, he could overrun the Republic right now with battle droids, but he had to come out on top, convince the galaxy it needed an emperor, destroy the Jedi over time, destroy the Separatists over time, so only he can win. A long war will be needed, and the two talked for a long time. When Sidious paused, said the Jedi have returned to Coruscant. He didn't have fear of them finding him here. They'd hidden away here for so long, and today would not be the day. Yoda stared ahead as the Republic cruiser emerged from hyperspace. This was a dangerous time for the galaxy. Jedi, Sith, clones, droids, war. Perhaps it could all end swiftly today. The Jedi and a squad of clones took two clone transport shuttles down to the tracking beacon, a tall building in the industrial sector. They landed, and everyone carefully got out. They looked around, and all together opened a side room where Dooku and a hooded figure stood together. As they entered the room, Sidious was shocked he didn't sense their presence, but the overall feeling of Jedi on this planet must have clouded him. Now, ahead of him, the three Jedi, Yoda, Obi-Wan, and Anakin, ignited their lightsabers, and clones spread out through the room. He told Dooku they would have to die, here and now. They would kill the Jedi and figure it out. But Dooku was conceiving other plans in this very moment. He knew there must have been a tracking device on his ship, and he wasn't even mad about it. He was seeing how powerful the Separatist army could be if truly unleashed. Why fight a war for years when you can end it almost immediately? It made sense for Sidious, but not so much for him. As the Jedi began walking forward, Dooku decided on his new path. He used a quick flick of the Force to remove Sidious's hood, and as Sidious began to feel this betrayal, he turned but was not in time as a red lightsaber went directly through his spine. He quickly fell dead. Dooku cut a hole underneath him and began navigating the hallways quickly to get to one of the hidden speeders in here. The Jedi could never maneuver this building like him. He'd spent countless hours here, with his master, training. And before the Jedi could even try to navigate the halls, Dooku did it perfectly, and he would be long gone. He was the master of the Sith, and he would bring the galaxy to its knees, however necessary. The Republic must be reformed. The Jedi were corrupt, and Dooku had it all in his hands now. The Jedi were in shock. They'd come here for Dooku. They'd tracked Dooku, but all in 1 minute. The Chancellor was revealed to be a Sith Lord, and then the Chancellor was killed. And before they could even blink, Yoda watched as Obi-Wan, Anakin, and the other clones sprinted after Dooku, and he looked down to the Chancellor. How would he explain this to the Republic? To the Jedi? And he could feel Anakin in the Force. The betrayal from a close friend in Palpatine made him angry. The next few days after this were among some of the worst for the Republic. Yoda and the Jedi revealed in a Senate meeting that the Chancellor was dead, assassinated by Count Dooku, and there was evidence the Chancellor may have even been working with Dooku and the Separatists. The corruption everyone now knew ran all the way to the top. Everyone loved Palpatine, but seeing this proof, the evidence, they were shocked, and they couldn't trust anyone. They didn't know what to do. The Senate was in shock. The Republic was crumbling in its most dire hour. They needed someone to lead them. And amidst the chaos, the Republic looked to the Jedi, and after more deliberation, days of falling behind in the war, the Jedi decided that Mace Windu would now lead the Republic during the war. When it was over, the Jedi would step down, but Mace would lead for now. He loved the Republic. He loved it as much as the Jedi Order, so he would lead, and he was fine with it. And for weeks, the Clone Wars raged on. It became evident quickly that the Separatists greatly outnumbered the clones. More and more Jedi were pushed into battle. The temple was much less crowded than ever before, with Jedi all over the front lines. Many Jedi died, some would leave the Order, and a few would even turn to the enemy side. More weeks passed in the war. Soon, it was months, and eventually Anakin and Obi-Wan found themselves on the front lines of Geonosis. In a war where Jedi were losing all around, Anakin and Obi-Wan were victorious on many occasions, and that was the hope here as well, as they pushed forward. The two Jedi recently discussed how even though they were losing the war, Dooku was nowhere to be seen. It was strange. He had to be plotting something. And in the Fu system across the galaxy, Count Dooku and General Grievous looked at the massive fleet nearly ready to take off. They were on their way to ambush the capital of the galaxy, Coruscant, and leading their fleet was a superweapon that had just finished and would give them the ultimate advantage. It was a ship larger than 4 Star Destroyers called the Malevolence, and was equipped with giant ion cannons on both sides. The cannons could completely shut down entire ships, or in this case, the entire Coruscant blockade. Dooku and Grievous boarded the ship, and the Separatist fleet jumped into hyperspace. With Sidious gone, there was no need to protect the Republic. There was no need for an even-sided war. With Sidious gone, Dooku could jump in, lead this superweapon to its ultimate potential, and that's what he would do. In the Jedi Temple during this, Yoda had seemed to age a decade in the first few months of the war. But today was special. He was sending Padawans to their new masters, and that included Ahsoka Tano, assigned to Anakin Skywalker on Geonosis. Ahsoka was special, strong but stubborn, similar to her new master. Yoda watched the shuttle carrying Ahsoka take off into the atmosphere, and he looked on as at the same time, an entire Separatist fleet emerged. Within seconds, alarms blared from the temple, from the Senate building, from everywhere. Coruscant was under attack, and Count Dooku looked ahead to the Republic blockade guarding Coruscant. Little did they know, this blockade would be their undoing. The fleet emerged with the weapon fully charged, and after a moment of positioning for his fleet, Dooku told Grievous he may fire when ready. The Republic blockade prepared to fight, but they never stood a chance. The ion blast shot out of the ginormous ship, and there was no time to escape. The dozens of Republic capital ships and cruisers were completely shut down. Around 40 of them in total. The battle, maybe the war, was going to be over before it could ever truly begin. Dooku ordered his entire fleet to fire, and before reinforcements could arrive, the 40 Republic ships were not only completely shut down, unable to move, fire back, or do anything, no shields, just sitting there. They were now being ripped apart by the firepower of the Separatists, and as they were there floating helplessly, the firepower pushed them into the Coruscant atmosphere. Soon, 40 giant Republic ships were ripped apart, and they began falling to the Coruscant ground. In the Senate building, Windu was ordering a full evacuation. They were holding a Senate meeting when they were ambushed, and Mace Windu looked to the sky to see a Republic cruiser falling straight down at the Senate building. He closed his eyes and accepted that this was it. The building exploded around him. The Senate building was gone. Yoda was evacuating the temple, and the explosion of the Senate building shook the ground like an earthquake. Jedi fell to their knees, shocked and unable to stand with this earthquake. More buildings collapsed. Yoda looked around as many more giant ships crashed into the ground, completely immobilized and destroyed. Coruscant was falling. The ground shook. Every building was collapsing. The temple shook. And Yoda was flown forward, knocked out, as a ship crashed behind the temple, sending debris everywhere. Before the Republic had a chance to even try to fight, the most important areas of Coruscant were completely destroyed. And Dooku looked on, satisfied. He would build a new government, a new empire in its place. The Republic and the Jedi were corrupt, and he did what was necessary. The war was basically over because of this superweapon. Coruscant communications were disabled. The Senate and Jedi Temple had become memories. Now, one more necessary move to truly cement his victory. Destroy the army. Destroy Kamino. But there was one hope left. The shuttle that was carrying Ahsoka Tano reached space as the ion blast was fired. The clone pilot had done everything he could to escape, and in the final seconds before the ion blast hit the shuttle, he was able to blast into hyperspace with the Jedi Padawan. And on Christophsis, Anakin and Obi-Wan were back aboard the command ship, trying to contact Coruscant with Admiral Yularen. They could tell something was terribly wrong, and communications had been shut down. What could have done this? Panic was beginning to set in when the door behind them opened to reveal a young Togruta sprinting in, tears in her eyes. Immediately, she began rambling about Coruscant, separatists, the temple, and Obi-Wan had to tell her to slow down. And so, Ahsoka then described everything she saw. She described the destruction of Coruscant. After hearing this, the crew of the ship was distraught, and the Jedi were torn. Anakin wanted to return to Coruscant immediately, make sure everyone was okay, mainly Padme, but he didn't say that. But Obi-Wan disagreed. They had to find this superweapon and put a stop to it. After some convincing, Anakin would agree. There would be many other Jedi going to Coruscant to find out what was wrong, but only they knew of the superweapon. But where was it going next? Obi-Wan, Anakin, and Ahsoka went into a deep meditation, searching into the Force for clues, for anything in the Force about where this weapon was going next, where Count Dooku was going next. Obi-Wan, in the meditation, felt a planet, somewhere he'd been before, the color blue. Anakin saw clones, hundreds, thousands, but no planet, and Ahsoka couldn't make much of anything out. More time went on, and soon the Jedi, they saw rain, water, Kamino. Kamino was in danger. Of course, the army of the Republic would be the next target. Dooku had no mercy. And in no time, the Christophsis Republic fleet took off for Kamino. On Coruscant, surviving Jedi, citizens, and senators moved through the destruction, searching for survivors. Windu had gotten a fair amount of senators out in time, but he himself was last in line and did not make it out. Coruscant was destroyed, but then in the destruction of the planet, people were coming together to help those who needed it. This gave Yoda hope, and he also had hope that Padawan Tano had made it to Skywalker and Kenobi. Perhaps this was not over yet. As Dooku and his fleet emerged from hyperspace in front of Kamino, he requested an update on the superweapon. It still had a good while until it was ready to fire, so for now his fleet would battle head-on with the Republic fleet blocking Kamino. Soon, they would fall like Coruscant, and soon they would fire on the Kamino buildings. But as he looked ahead, a new fleet emerged and doubled the Republic's numbers. Dooku was confused how this happened. How did anyone know that he was coming to Kamino? How did anyone know of Coruscant and live to tell about it? This seemed impossible, but he did recall one small shuttle jumping into hyperspace above Coruscant. This was because of that shuttle. He just knew it. Anakin put on a spacesuit, got a space-breathable helmet into his ship with him. He was ready for anything, as countless clone fighters flew out of the capital ship towards the Separatist fleet. This was the battle for the fate of the galaxy, and it was a mighty one with a clear goal: disable the flagship with the ion cannons on it. The battle was crowding the space between flagships. Blaster fire whirred past everyone. Clone ships exploded, vulture droids exploded along with them. It was an even fight to start, and very destructive. Anakin and Obi-Wan spun around each other. They were the greatest Jedi duo fighting in this war, and they would win today. They had to win today. They got through a wave of droids, and Anakin had a squad of bombers line up behind him. He and Obi-Wan destroyed all the droids in their way, and right as they reached the Malevolence, its shields were temporarily disabled. Bombs and fire were dropped on the ion cannons, and as Anakin spun around to look at them, he was disappointed. There was an impact, but the firing sequence began. The weapon was charging and it was nearly ready to fire, even with these bombing runs. He would need a new strategy, and he would need it quick, as he flew back into battle. Dooku watched as the cannons charged. He began to fear Skywalker and his flying. He was better than anyone he'd ever seen. Skywalker was special in his Jedi fighter. Dooku, though, saw the charge hit 99%, then 100%, and he ordered Grievous to fire. This was their time for victory. But for Anakin Skywalker, this would be his greatest moment, or this would be his death. Perhaps both. He contacted the Padawan Ahsoka to be ready for her special, emergency mission. And as he began to move, he saw the Malevolence charge up and begin its firing sequence. Anakin flew directly towards the cannons. He got closer, closer. Anakin was directly online with the ion cannon, and as it began to fire, Anakin ejected from his Jedi Starfighter with R2-D2, grateful he brought the spacesuit and helmet with him. While floating up in space, he watched his fighter crash into the middle of the ion cannon, and Anakin hoped this would be enough. The cannon fired, but nothing came out of it. Instead, the blast stayed inside the ship, and the destruction of the cannon from Anakin's starfighter caused an implosion. Dooku looked out of the front window as he realized the failure. He watched as Anakin Skywalker flew on his droid to a ship picking him up. The last thing he saw was Anakin escaping in this new ship that picked him up as the explosion tried to catch him. But of course, he escaped. The ship explosion reached the top, and Dooku was gone. Anakin found the young Padawan Ahsoka flying the pickup ship. They were just escaping this blast, and Ahsoka did just as Anakin instructed. He watched the Malevolence completely explode before Dooku and Grievous ever had a chance to get out. He walked up to Ahsoka, saying that because of them, the Order would live, and she would make a great apprentice. With the Malevolence gone along with the Separatist leaders, this battle was quickly won by the Republic. Kamino was saved. From here, the Republic would try to rebuild, but not alone. The surviving senators and Jedi would go to make peace talks with the Separatist Council. This kind of destruction seen on Coruscant was never what anyone wanted on either side. It was too much. Thousands of lives were lost in one foul swoop as Dooku and Grievous did anything further than the Separatist Council would have ever wanted. So, the Republic would have to basically start from scratch to rebuild, and they needed the Separatists to join to build this new Republic, one that would be great for everyone, one more free of corruption over time. And so a new treaty was signed. The violent Dooku and Grievous were dead, so the Separatists were willing to comply. They saw the evil that was on their side, they saw the destruction, and both sides came to an even middle in the treaty. And a rebuild began, with the galaxy trying to unite under this new Republic. When Anakin finally returned to Coruscant, he was holding in every single emotion. He wasn't letting himself feel sadness of Padme yet, not until he knew whether she was truly alive or dead. And as Anakin moved through the debris, through rescue squads, Jedi, senators, citizens coming together, he found a huge group surrounding one person giving commands. In the center of a large group was Padme Amidala, organizing rescue teams, giving instruction, and leading the rebuilding new Republic. Anakin ran up and hugged her, an embrace for everyone to see. 1 year later, the new Republic was led by Chancellor Padme Amidala. Coruscant was still broken and full of crime since its destruction, but the surviving Jedi served as protectors of the people for the Republic. Once again, they were peacekeepers. The Order was cut into just 1/4 of what it was before the war. The battles, the destruction of the Temple had caused many to die, but the Order was alive. And Anakin was training Padawan Ahsoka Tano, while Obi-Wan and Yoda focused on the new temple. And that is our story today. Folks, let me know what you thought. I really enjoyed writing this one. I hope you enjoyed listening. Yeah, go watch Ahsoka videos from yesterday. New one coming out probably tomorrow about Ahsoka, about what I think the end game is of the show, kind of. But either way, hope you enjoyed today's fanfiction. I'll see you in the next video. Hit the like button, please.